Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Internet Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. A very good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 3rd of March 2012 and we had a packed week this week. Loads of things going on. But before we talk about that, we'll go over and get the communications, Steve.
Yes, communication channels are as follow: info at OYMIreland.com for your emails during the show and during the week. We also have the guest book on the website as well. You're more than welcome to log in there and leave a message for all and sundry. We also have the chat facility on our new and improved. If you're not on it, I'd suggest you get to it. Our new and improved super duper mega looper website. It's OYMIreland.com. You can also go into the chat facility there as well. There's a big little button. I was going to say there's a little button there saying live chat. You can log in there with your real names. Obviously, there's several people logged in already, so I'll say a big hi to all of you. Hi. You can ask questions in there to our special guests this evening. You can also chat among yourselves quietly while having a nice cup of tea. And yes, if you want to give us a shout on the landline, you can.
Give us a call on 046 927 1212.
046 927 1212. If you're ringing in from outside Republic of Ireland, it's 00353 in front of that. And the last thing I want to mention about the new website for those who are not on it, if you do take a trip to the front page, you will see a rotating banner. Bear with it. There is a little caricature up there of Alan and I, or Alan and me, whatever way you want to call it. And it's a very good caricature done for us by our good friend Walter Graham. And it's actually very, very kind of descriptive of what we actually look like. Alan.
Cheers, Steve. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that. Right, our guest on tonight is a chap called Colm from Attack the Tax, and hopefully later on we'll have Tom Darcy on. Tom was interviewed by TI on TNS there a while ago regarding the case that he's gone through with AIB and all these shenanigans with AIB Bank. So hopefully Tom will be on later on, and we'll get a heads up with Tom and find out what Tom has been up to. Now, as you have, a lot of people have been aware, we have upgraded the website to the latest version, and a few changes. I know people generally don't like change, but unfortunately change is inevitable in everything we do. So we had to upgrade the actual website, and we hope that you like it. You see, as Steve mentioned, a caricature of myself and Steve. And for people who do actually know us, I don't know whether you'd agree whether that's like us or not, but all opinions are valid. If you want to send an email, now you probably noticed that there's less front office information, and everything's kind of, when you register, you'll get access to a lot more information, to videos and all that kind of stuff. And there is a reason why we've done that as well. So, but hopefully you like the new site and have a look around. If you do register, it's free. And you'll be, again, as usual, have access to emails and links that we send out on a regular basis if you're a registered user. So, just give us your feedback, good or bad, on the website. Let us know what you think. And if there's anything that you would like to see on the site, by all means, let us know. Steve?
Yes, it's looking well, as we do say and have mentioned before. We do have some little Google adverts sporadically placed around the site. We kind of always ask for, if anyone can, throw an €1 or a few washers our way, because we're always trying to get a few bits and bobs for the studio to make the the listening experience more pleasurable for you, the listener. So yeah, we have some ads placed around the site. If you see an ad that takes your fancy, just click it. And by clicking it, you are sticking it to the man, and you're getting a few cents in the OYM tip jar, and all proceeds do go to buying, say, bits and pieces of equipment that we need for the studio, be it a light bulb or a cable or a switch or something. And speaking of bumper stickers, yeah, we're still waiting on the bumper stickers to arrive. We did mention last week that the bumper stickers had been ordered. The printer had got the thumbs up, the green light, the I's had been crossed and the T's had been T'd, and they're done anyway. We're just waiting for them to actually arrive, at Walton's Mountain. Of course, when the postman comes in on the horse and cart, like he has to trudge up the hill, but sure, he'd get here eventually. But yeah, so we're waiting for them to come in. So anyone who has placed an order, we're not forgetting about you. All names are recorded, and as soon as they do come in, they will be sent out forthwith, henceforth in the post.
Well, we have a little kind of shop on the site, and just basic donations from people like Marcus, like One World Chronicle, Sovereign Independent, and obviously the bumper stickers, when they come in, they will be on the site and they will be available. And it's all got to do with getting the information out there by helping a little bit of funding to help fund OYM and what we do. And I know some people have a certain opinion about doing things like that, but everything we do goes back in and back out to everybody else. That's the way it works.
We're like the hokey cokey of the troop movement world.
Exactly.
In out, shake it all about.
You put the money in and we send all the stuff out. That's how it works. So when the bumper stickers come in, hopefully it'll be this week, then we can get them up on the site, and then you'd be able to order them and start their national campaign of I'm Awake and get people to actually wake up on what's going on. But next week, just to let you know on the list, we have the United We Strike marathon every second week in the month. The United We Strike marathon goes on, and that's on Saturday. And more than likely, I'll probably be doing some producing. And we have a load of guests going to be on there. Karen at the moment is working on the guest list. So hopefully, when you go over to the UWS website, which is unitedwestrike.com, in the next few days, you'll see the list of guests that are going to be on the show on the next Saturday. So we should be good. I think it's the 9th.
It's a black tie event as well, so I hope you have your short ironed.
Black tie event. So
yes.
So the Radio Marathon will be on next week. So we'll be sorting out the guest list during the week, next couple of days, I think, and then you can check it out.
Yeah, and for anyone who wants to tune in, the player, as always, is on the front of the OYM site. On the left-hand side, we have our own player, and we also have the UWS player as well. So if you're, going to be knocking about, you can give it a listen, and I'm sure it'll be, as always, it'll be very entertaining, and it'll be a great day. What was I going to mention?
Tell us how Enda got on, or do we have any news on that?
Enda, I think it was a very exciting affair.
What?
It was extraordinary. It was an egg extravaganza, and loads of other jokes that have the word egg in them. No, actually, would you believe it? And I cannot believe this. We mentioned it last week about Enda going to be down in County Meath in the Headford Arms in Kells. We mentioned it last week. We mentioned it the previous week, and I forgot all about it. Yeah, I actually wanted to get down just with the video camera, just to have a look.
Do you not remember what we were doing Friday night?
Friday night?
Yes, we were on Skype sorting a technical problem out.
Oh, sugar. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we both forgot about it.
We both forgot about it because we were sorting out a technical problem out.
Yes, we were.
There you go.
We got it sorted out in the end, this technical problem, thanks to Alan.
Well, if anybody has been down to the Headford Arms on Friday and has any video footage or any information, and did that end actually turn up? We don't know. But if you have any information on it, by all means email us, let us know, and we'll read it out in the news next week. Steve, Bernadette Bowen, tell us all about it.
Yeah, Bernadette Bowen, she is a lady who both Alan and I have the privilege of having on our show a couple of times. And she's a very genuine, nice lady. She has, we're not supposed to say the word cured, but she had cancer on 2 occasions, and on both occasions she was able to send this cancer into spontaneous remission, and she's kept it that way. She just basically changed her life, and changed the way she ate food and the way she prepared food, and that was enough to, send this cancer into spontaneous remission. But anyway, Bernadette Bowen and Dr. Brian Clement, a best-selling author, they're coming together to give you a practical guide of losing weight, increasing energy, and improving your health naturally.
Can we just say that
you can say whatever
the answer for the 2 free tickets is going to be what you read out, but it'll be the last week before the show is when we're going to ask the question.
Right, the last week before the show, ask a question. Yes, yeah. So I was going to get to that. We do have 2 free tickets to the event. I think They're valued at €35 each, and we have 2 to give away. I'm going to read out some information here in relation to the event. You just have to listen to it. And it was the same information that was read out by our guest here in the studio last week, Mick from Liffey Sound. Mick is actually on the chat there as well. So, Mick, very good evening to you. Pleasure and a privilege getting to meet you and have you in the studio. But anyway, the meet and greet with Dr. Clement and Bernadette Bowen will be on Tuesday, March 26th, 2013. It will be in the Carlton Dublin Airport Hotel. That's the old airport road in Cloghran in Ireland, obviously. It's going to be 7:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. And for inquiries and bookings, you can email B, that's just the letter B, as in the second letter in the alphabet, B at changesimply.com. You can also telephone Bernadette Bowen at 01-845-2957. Again, I'll just recap over that. That's a meet and greet with Bernadette Bowen and Dr. Brian Clement. Tuesday, March 26th, 7:30 p.m., 10:30 p.m., Carlton Dublin Airport Hotel. And
it's even if you don't win the tickets, it's a brilliant show to go to, guys. Loads of great information. I went to the show with Bernadette. Now, it's probably an update on what I've seen, but the information was really, really good stuff, really, really good stuff. And I thought for a minute there Bernadette was going over to the dark side. Coming over to our side, because she was telling us all about, the things that are bad in our diet, like aspartame, MSG and fluoride and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, well, fair play to you talking about it and getting out there and educating people and letting people know what's going down, Steve, how's your week?
My week has been, an eventful week. Not too. I haven't done too much really. I haven't really done a lot of homework. However, that said, I only have 2 announcements. Well, 2 little things on my little piece of paper that I have here in my hand. And one is my wife was listening to the radio, the mainstream radio. I'm not sure what channel it was, but she was listening to that this afternoon, and she ran into me. I was in the other room.
Did she hurt you?
She hurt me, yeah. Yeah. And she just said to me, there's after been an advert on the radio. And she said the content of the advert was that people were being encouraged to teach their children to speak German. Now, I didn't hear the advert myself. I don't know if any of our listeners have heard it. You won't hear it here anyway. But it was kind of interesting, because I'm wondering, why is this kind of drive on for getting people to, encourage their children to learn and speak German? I wonder, is it a case of that maybe if there's a few bright sparks here, that, they might just, what would you say, when people leave college here, the graduates, maybe they'll be poached and brought over to the motherland to work over there. I don't know, but it's just kind of interesting. Why German? Why not French or Spanish or some other Europe? Why not just say encourage them to learn another language, in case they want to work abroad? Eric says he heard it, yeah.
No, he said he didn't hear it.
He says, I did hear it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, put your glasses on, will you?
I do need glasses, funny enough.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you'll never look as good in them as I do. Of course, you'll have to get... I've seen you in dark sunglasses.
Yeah?
I have.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's a video of Alan with dark sunglasses, but the less said about that, the
better. Yeah. Did I have a white stick with me as well?
I'm not saying nothing.
Oh, okay.
Right. Anyway, the second thing on my list... Sorry, I'm just knocking the microphone there.
Okay, yeah.
The second thing on my list is myself and my darling wife. We had a conversation this morning. And I figured out fairly quickly, and I just mentioned to Alan when I come up, the worst place, to have a discussion is in the marital chamber. It's absolutely the worst place to to kind of shoot the breeze on important issues. It should be just reserved for sleeping. End of story. But yeah, we were just kind of discussing vaccinations. We both have seen all the information relating to vaccinations from both sides. But we've really been kind of grabbed by what the naysayers, the people who are kind of not anti-vaccination, but anti-mercury and so many of these chemicals and whatnot in the vaccines. Anyway, Every time my wife goes over to visit the GP, she's kind of hounded over there by the GP's secretary and other members of staff in relation to the new baby that we had. Our daughter is 12 weeks old now at the moment, and she's kind of getting hounded. It's very easy for me to kind of say, well, I'm against them and this is my reasons why, but I don't have anyone, say, hounding me anytime I go to my GP. So I'm just interested, if anyone out there, any of the listeners, have children that they did not get vaccinated, and was there any problems, any issues, dare I say it, was there any deaths? Because that's kind of a big bone of contention. We did kind of have a little discussion about that. If the child were to catch something and maybe, it was fatal, could we live with ourselves? So I'm just interested, if anyone out there, any of the listeners have, children and you didn't get them vaccinated, were there any problems? Or was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? I'm just interested on your thoughts on that. So if you can either throw them in the chat room here, or if it's something of a more personal nature, you can just drop us an email, info@oymireland.com, and I'll get that as well. And I do appreciate anyone who will contact us in relation to that. Alan,
okay.
How's your week?
Well, any information to Steve there, obviously, because it's an issue for any new parents that have a new baby, whether they do or don't vaccinate their children. And we know about vaccinations, and the obvious answer is no, but you want to look at all the facts, and if anybody has any experience in that, obviously contact Steve and send us in an email, and we'll have a look at that. But for my week, just a few things, and actually what Steve said earlier on, I think I do need glasses, Steve, to be honest with you. But I've noticed over the last few days, looking at things, and I'm looking at it close, and it's all fuzzy, and then I move it away, and it goes into focus, and I'm going, man, I must be getting old, I need glasses.
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so the OPPT, we talked about it last week on the show, this People's Trust, and there's an awful lot of stuff going around the internet, good and bad, regarding the OPPT. Now, I'm hoping to get a couple of people on in the next few weeks. We're going to be talking about it. But there is a website saying about opt-in. And I'm always concerned about things that tell you to opt-in. Why do you need to opt-in? I thought the whole idea was that you send a courtesy letter to the people and say, this is UCC law and don't deny me anymore. Why do you have to opt-in? It concerns me a little bit. I want to see more evidence. I'd like to see more actual case studies and people using this to, not be jailed or not get the house taken off them. And, it's okay. I know Heather said, oh, well, I use my house. But that's what we only have her word to take. I'd like to see the evidence. I'd like to see somebody over here in Ireland using the People's Trust to fight their case. So, if anybody is doing that and have done it and they're successful, by all means contact us and let us know. I'd love to know about that. But I'm just sitting on the fence with the OPPT at the moment, okay? I'm just concerned about this opt-in thing. Now also during the week, you probably heard about the sinkhole in Florida, where your man was in his house in Florida and the sinkhole just opened up and then he went straight down the sinkhole.
Seeing the pictures, yeah, frightening stuff.
Do you think that would happen in the Dáil by any chance?
Not a hope.
Because we have a few, well, they're not sinkholes, but you can guess what I'm thinking of in the Dáil, which kind of could go down there, they won't be missed. Now, the other thing as well is, and this is for everybody in the truth movement, this is for everybody who are either running radio stations or newspapers or TV or YouTube. I came across this during the week and it's quite interesting. Death threats are one way to disable the purveyors of conspiracy theories. Actual assassinations are another, he explained. I think this was an article, Obama, relating to Obama, I think the things where he was saying. According to the analyst, there is a long list of people who are trying to expose the truth of 9/11 and have met with untimely suspicious deaths. Since we now know that the secret National Security Committee is ordering the murder of American citizens, and since we know the CIA has the power to easily simulate deaths from illnesses and accidents, we might as well assume that every time a dissident dies unexpectedly, he or she has been murdered by the US government, Barrett said. And there's more information on Press TV to actually read about this article. So basically, in the States at least, anybody who's against the system, they're actually saying, well, there's an agency there that will take him out, and chances are it'll be an untimely death or accident or illness, and they're actually talking about doing it, openly talking about taking these people out, like everybody involved in the truth movement. So, be a bit a concern. James Fetzer was going to be talking about 9/11, and his show was cancelled because of certain threats and bomb threats and stuff like that, I believe. So, we just have to be on our guard, guys. We just have to be careful. If they're ramping up what they're doing, we have to be careful from our side. Okay, so just be on your guard. For whatever you do in the truth movement, just be on your guard. And just be careful of people infiltrating and pretending to be on your side, because I'm sure we've come across a lot of them. But anyway, so that's my week. Okay, we're going to get Colin in from this. Colin is from Attack the Tax, and we're going to be talking about the property charge, property tax, and all things related to it. Good evening, Colin. How are you? Anytime, Colin.
Take your time.
You there, Colin? Come in, Colin.
Colin.
Hello, lads. Can you hear me?
There you are.
Can you hear me, lads?
We can indeed, yeah. Can you hear us
Just
okay?
Give me a wee second. I'm having technical problems. I unmuted the mic there, and as soon as I did, I lost audio on the earphones. So just give me a wee second till I get that up and going.
Okie dokie. Just give us a shout when you're ready there.
Technical issues.
Don't you just love technical issues?
I do. Obviously, I do. That's what we were doing on Friday night. We forgot all about Enda Kenny, our leader. Our fearless leader.
On Friday, well, we had to sort them problems out at least. But if anybody has any news, as I say, on the OPPT, give us a shout and let us know, because I'd like to see it tried and tested over here first. And this opt-in, I'd be very careful with it, All right, Colin.
Okay. Crown Copyright took me 21 minutes to transfer title ownership. Go back. At least you did. Fair play to you, Crown Copyright. We own you now.
Exactly. We had to do the transfer of all the users from the old site to the new site, and that was kind of steel underwear time as well, hoping that it all worked out. One or two little technical issues with people, but generally we've sorted them out, so hopefully, fingers crossed, that everybody can get logged in and access in there. Colm, how are you doing?
I should be up and going now. Can you hear me, lads?
That's good quality there. That's fantastic, Colm. Good evening, Colm, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Tell us all about, obviously we're all concerned about this bloody property tax that they're going to lump on us, along with the broadcasting licence or broadcasting charge that you want to do as well, but you're focusing on the property charge. Tell us about your organisation, Colm, and tell us about what we can do.
Okay, well, first and foremost, there's been a big shift in the I suppose, property tax household charge campaign to move away from fighting the household charge, which is wrong, because the household charge hasn't gone away. The property tax has been brought in on top of the household charge. A lot of people thought, well, whenever the media put out an announcement that the household charge had been abolished, but that hasn't been the case. All that's been repealed is Section 3 of the Household Charge Act. So it means it's still in force. And what we're doing is we've started a national campaign where we're going from town to town, we're giving talks, explaining to people how they can legally and lawfully protect themselves against the household charge property tax.
Okay, and tell us, can you kind of give us a heads up on what we should be looking at, what we should be doing? Because apparently I heard that we're going to be receiving paperwork in the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Well, what we've done is there is a case in the High Courts at the moment. It's if anybody wants to check it up, it's 2012/12340P. And if you go on to courts.ie, you should be able to check up and find out the particulars about that case. And or if indeed if you want to look at some of the paperwork that's been issued in relation to that case, just do a Google search for Phil Hogan summons household charge, and you should find some of the paperwork readily available to download. What we've essentially done is we have set up a limited company, and we're taking a case against the government as a corporate entity, because there's no facility in Ireland to take what's called a class action. So the only way we can get around this is to set up a corporation and then sue the government this way. Now, it is possible to take what's called a representative action, which is where you can, where a group of people can get together and a couple of members are the representatives, and they basically speak on behalf of the other members. But that only offers injunctive relief. In other words, you can get injunctions issued, but no damages can be paid. So this is a way around it by setting up a corporation. And what we're doing is we're inviting people to join the corporation, sign up as a shareholder, and if they get any letters or any correspondence from the Revenue or from the Household Charge Bureau, local government management agency, just send them back a letter, which should be available to download on our website in the coming days, and tell them that you're basically a party to this action, and you will not be paying, you'll not be registering until such times as this matter has been resolved in the courts.
Okay, so, well, at the end of the interview, what we'll do is we will get all that information off you and, give it out.
Yeah.
Now, so the whole idea is that you, as a corporate company, you're bringing Phil Hogan and a few others to book, bringing them to court, basically.
We are indeed. Just to name some of the people that we were taking in this action would be Michael Noonan, Alan Shatter, Phil Hogan, amongst others. You can see the list of defendants on the paperwork itself whenever you download the document.
Okay, and what's the reaction to these? I mean, do you have any inside information regarding the reaction of the TDs on how they, is it an arrogance level of who are these people thinking, what are they doing? Who do they think they are, or are they concerned about it?
Well, surprise, surprise, there's been no national coverage at all on this issue. There has been a few papers that run with the story, but there's been no replies from the defendants themselves. They have submitted they have submitted documentation to say that they are going to defend their case, and that's kind of where things are at the moment. On Monday in the High Courts there is a motion to strike the case, which will be defended rigorously, and that's kind of where things are at the moment with the case.
I mean, you have to ask yourself, we know the system is corrupt, and we know the judges. I mean, I hope, you guys do what you do, and you get the case you want, and you win it. I do. I really, really do. All my positive energy is on your side for what you are doing, and I take my hat off to what you're doing. But I also have a feeling, as we all know, that the system is corrupt. And if the TDs, if you were to win, that would set a precedent, and then it'd open up the floodgates. So, my inner feeling is that, what I feel is that the judge, no matter what, is just going to rule no to that. He'll just disregard it. But I just hope maybe we might get a judge that,
Well, we're defending or we're taking the case on a number of issues. One is constitution, and the second then is human rights, and the third then is under the Non-Fatal Offences Against the Persons Act 1997. And I believe we have a very strong case. The first notice demand for answers in relation to the household charge was sent, and of course no questions on that were answered. Well, the only answer we've got to date has been from a solicitor in Mayo, King McKellen solicitors, basically sent back a letter to say that it was a criminal matter. So that's something that maybe people aren't aware of out there, that if you haven't registered and haven't paid the household charge, it is, according to King McKellen, a criminal matter.
Right, okay. So if you haven't registered, so we're all criminals at the moment.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. We are all criminals. The fact that, the worst thing I've ever got in my life is probably a parking ticket. Or maybe the odd, couple of points on my license. Because, I went over a white line, a straight white line. That's what I did.
You did?
I did. I actually went over.
You did? You were drunk that night, weren't you?
No. I don't think, well, it's very hard to, no, I was in the passenger seat. My hands were over the other side. Sure.
Yeah. I told you you'd never drive a car that way.
No. But no, I mean...
Can I just ask Colm a question? Yeah. Colm, would it not be... Just the one thing that comes into my head, and every time I hear this, the property charge or property tax and the notices coming out, it's the same. I kind of view that the same as the notice for, say, TV license or any other notice. It's just a notice. I mean, it's not a bill. I mean, if someone sends me a notice, you can either choose to run with it and obey whatever it says, whatever commands it's giving you, or you can kind of go, yeah, I'm not interested, and just kind of throw it in the bin. Can we not just say do what has been mentioned previously? When you get these notices in, just return to sender and don't contract with them at all.
Well, the problem is with that, Steve, is that revenue have been brought into the game, and they can go into people's bank accounts, take the money out of the bank accounts, and they have the facility where they can go and take the money out of wages or out of benefits. So, no, that unfortunately won't work anymore.
But for them
if the household charge had been left as was, that route could have been used, but it's now been closed off.
But for them to go into, say, people's bank accounts, first and foremost, I think we can all agree, and we spoke about it here before, that there's no law saying you have to have a bank account. A bank account and an ATM card is very, very handy, but life can be lived quite happily without a bank account. And I know that, say, what they're talking about now, the revenue, they are talking about going in and taking it out of your wages. But for them to find out who has and who hasn't paid, that's going to be a massive undertaking, I would imagine. So therefore, would it not be in their benefit to do what they're saying with this broadcasting charge and just kind of blanket tax everybody, man, woman and child, doesn't matter who you are, we're taking money off you, and just, do it that way?
Well, indeed, but the vast majority of people on this island don't know what we know in relation to how to defend yourself against, these unlawful charges and taxes, and so this is a solution that will allow us to take an action against the government, get money that has been paid by people in payment for the household charge back, because that's one of our demands, is that whenever we win this case, is that anybody who's paid the household charge will have the money that they paid refunded.
Well, that would be excellent if it works. And I haven't really thought about what I'm going to do with the piece of paper. I mean, obviously I'm not going to pay it, and I don't really want to pay it. But as to what I'm going to do with it, I don't know. So what you're saying is, in this case, because of the way things are, you don't return the sender because it won't work because of the revenue. You're saying obviously become a member of the corporation or the company, and then just send a letter stating that this is a court case that's ongoing, so we can't actually make any payment.
Yeah, and it's a quick and easy way that people can protect themselves. And what we'd recommend to people is to come along to the meetings. Like we're out on the road every Saturday. We're in a different town, different county every Saturday. Come along to the meetings, educate yourself in what the household charge property tax is about. Like, people will know superficially, and maybe if they've done a bit of research, maybe a bit more. But there's a lot of things that people won't be aware of in relation to the form, for example. If anyone studied the form, it's a 6-page document, 5 pages if you exclude the blank page, but even it's of huge relevance. If you take a look at the middle section of what's called the HC12N form, that's the green form. The middle section of it is where you sign, and it is in effect an instrument which is a promise to pay a declaration of liability. And interestingly, like an instrument such as a cheque, the back of it is blank. And it's my belief that the government will securitise or bundle these promises to pay, these declarations of liability, sell them on to the IMF, ECB, and they'll basically, it's not just the €100 that they're going to lift in payment of the household charge. They're going to get a lot more money out of this. We're talking billions here.
Okay, so what's the worst case scenario? What if somebody goes ahead and signs up and you lose the case? I mean, where does that put them from a liability point of view?
The shareholders.
Yeah.
We have put things in place in order to protect the shareholders. Now, I don't want to discuss that on radio. Like people can contact us and we can discuss that with them. But we have put in place procedures to protect the liability of the shareholders.
Okay, so you have some kind of protection in place because
we have put a great deal of thought into this.
Yeah, because people will be concerned, obviously, if they sign up and don't actually realise what they're signing, or they don't read it, or they don't understand it, but they're told that they should do it, and then if something happens and the proverbial hits the fan, they find out that they're liable and they could lose the house or whatever. So this is why I think it's important to clarify that if you do sign up, that there is a level of cover there, or they won't be liable and lose, the house from under the feet, basically. Mm-hmm. So you can confirm that that's the case.
Yeah, well, we have put a lot of thought into this. Like we're on the road now for this is we've given our third talk now, and we've put in many weeks of planning and research into this whole area. And collectively, like we've over 20 years experience or more actually in legal matters, so we've given it a lot of thought. So we have, and there has been procedures put in place there in order to protect the shareholders. Okay,
well that's good. I mean, what we do is, I think you said you don't have the website set up just yet.
No, the website is up and going. It's attackthetax.com, and what we don't have is the facility for people who wish to become shareholders to buy their share there and then. So what you can do is you can come onto the website and you can click on the section Join Us, fill in your name, address, email address, telephone number, and what will happen is in the coming weeks and that there, once we get a payment facility up and running, then we'll invite people to go back onto the website and register the €2 or pay the €2.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, it's not going to break the bank, is it? €2 to do it, but
no.
It all helps in the funding. Yeah.
Sorry, Alan, you're kind of cutting in there in and out at times.
Okay, sorry.
Only hearing the odd word.
Okay, I was just saying that €2 is fine. It's not going to break the bank, and it helps fund things as well in a little way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like whenever the anti-household charge campaign were running nationally, they were inviting people to pay €5, and they were saying to people, like, this is going to cover you if there's a court case or if you need legal protection whenever you go into court. We'll have maybe a legal team who can assist you. Now,
but should
you
go into court?
Charge campaign have done a great thing in raising the awareness of the household charge property tax, but that's as far as they've gone. They haven't come up with any viable solution to help and protect people against the revenue, against the local government management agency, or being prosecuted or whatever. So that's where we're kind of stepping in now, and we're saying to people, we have a solution here to protect you in the interim while we take this case.
Okay, well that sounds promising and sounds good. So obviously with the likes of the revenue getting involved, it's kind of up the ante with the government. Steve?
Yeah, I just want to mention something real quick that's it's been put up on our own chat facility and also on the TNS as well. And for anyone who was listening, in relation to the bank account, I know when we said about them going in and taking this money out of your bank account, well, as has been put up and has been said before here on OYM, you have use of the bank account, but it's essentially not your bank account. It is actually owned by the bank. So I suppose technically they could go in and do whatever they want there because it's not really yours. You only have the use of it. So I just want to clarify that just in case anyone was getting angry out there thinking someone's going to start going into your bank account. It's not really yours.
Yeah. The bank do own it. Do you have a couple of questions there, Steve?
Do I?
Well, there is Eric. Eric asked a question there,
right?
And he said, "Will your corporation have to be named on your title deeds?"
No, I see that question, and I'm not quite clear on what exactly it pertains to. So maybe Eric, if you could post up some clarity there. Are you talking in relation to the title deeds of your home?
I assume he's probably talking about the title deeds of his home. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. What will happen is that anybody who signs up to become a shareholder will get a share certificate, and that's it. Like there's no deeds or anything like that involved. It's just simply a shareholder certificate.
Okay, and have you got legal advice that if people sign up, become a shareholder and send a letter, that they won't come knocking on the door because they can't legally? Is that correct?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, have you got obviously legal advice where if people sign up as a shareholder and they send a letter off to the property tax people that they can't legally come knocking on the door looking for this money or take the money out of your account because this is a legal case? I mean, have you got legal advice on this? Is this definitely like kosher?
It is kosher, yeah. Like I said, we've put a lot of research into this, and we racked our brains collectively to try and find a solution to how we could take a case and protect anybody who's been threatened by the revenue or by any other government agency in relation to the household charge property tax. Okay.
And, well, it's a step in the right direction. I think, it's something for people at least to go in and look at. Go to the website, attackthetax.com, have a read of it, and then if they're happy with the information, then sign up, because I know in the next couple of weeks, I was kind of scratching my head when, I was thinking about, well, if the paperwork comes in, I know I don't want to pay it, that's for sure. Like the majority of people in Ireland probably.
Yeah.
But I wasn't too sure what way I was going to deal with it. That was the thing, and that's why I thought...
It certainly puts the cat amongst the pigeons when revenue gets involved, and this is one solution that people can definitely avail of.
Yeah.
Our hopes and dreams, I suppose, for using this corporation will be to take this action against the government on the household charge and get it struck down and struck out completely. If the household charge is toppled, well, that basically will spell goodbye then for the property tax.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
And there's many other issues there that we all feel passionate about, and there's a lot of different groups out there that are getting a hard knock from the government. There's the tough cutters, the bad cutters. There's the fluoridation, issue as well. There are so many issues there. There's the mortgage, people who have difficulties with mortgages. And so there's a lot of different issues that this corporation could be used against. You basically would have a very, very large company. Like, our aim is to get 1 million people. Yeah. That's our aim. 1 million people to sign up and become shareholders. And you're talking about a massive group of people. The government cannot sit back and ignore those type of numbers.
Definitely.
So we're inviting anybody who's registered, anybody who's registered and maybe is exempt from the household charge, anybody who's paid and registered, to become shareholders, anybody who just has an interest in defeating this tax, to become shareholders, and get behind us. And if you sign up and become a shareholder, get your friends and family to do the same. We really want the numbers on this company to grow exponentially.
Yeah, because I'd like to know what people's ideas were, what the listeners are planning to do, especially obviously over in Ireland, what they were planning to do themselves. That's why I thought, with you coming on, Colm, to talk about Attack the Tax, I thought we might have a solution here. Now, we mentioned OPPT earlier on, which the People's Trust, and using the letter that you send to whichever department is sending you a letter, whether it's whether it's the Gardaí or whether it's the Inland Revenue or whether it's your mortgage company, and you send them the courtesy letter and you say, it's your company's null and void.
In relation to the OPPT, I've seen a few documentaries, I've read a wee bit on the internet, found it difficult to get any sort of clear-cut, straight answers in relation to the One People's Public Trust. I've watched a few YouTube videos. There's a couple, I think it's Heather and Andrew Christian in Australia.
Yeah.
I really don't know enough about it, to say either way whether or not it's bona fide or whether or not it's a hoax. I certainly would like to believe that it is true. Yeah. And I think it would be fantastic if it's true.
I agree.
But that's the extent of my knowledge on it.
Yeah, we need some kind of case history over here in Ireland for somebody to try it, or people willing to try it, a user who understand it and see if it works. I mean, that's really what it is. If people haven't rebutted, if the governments haven't rebutted what Heather was doing, then technically, she said she put a house up as a kind of a way to kind of flush out the rats in the system and find out where the corruption is. But at the end of the day, we need to see that, and we need case histories. We need to see it working. So they're the only two. I mean, the three things that I had in my mind was, obviously, I know you mentioned about your Class Act or similar, what you're doing with the corporation. Then there's obviously the return to sender thing, which generally works, but obviously in this case probably won't because of revenues involved. And then the other thing is the OPPT. So they're the only three kind of options that I was kind of thrown around in my head as to what to do. But, the OPPT, again, we need to take case histories. Return the sender, if the revenue is getting involved and they can go into bank accounts, then they'll just go in and ignore your RTS anyway.
They are. So it's not really a solution to do the return to sender.
No.
Yeah. We have that's we have houses. We all live in houses, and it's something that's foremost in our mind. Like, what were we going to do in the event that we got a letter from the revenue to say, you haven't paid, you haven't registered the household charge, so we're coming after you. We had to think, well, what we're going to do. So this is what we came up with, and we're going to run with it and put as much energy into it as we can.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah, Colm, I know you're on the chat facility there as well, so you can probably see some of the questions. But just a couple of comments there. One comment from Crown Copyright. He said that it sounds like a Roger Hayes scheme. And then Shane says, can you ask Colm if he really has that much in the independence of the judges to rule on your side? I don't really understand that question, but...
Well, I think you know what he means. Do we have much confidence that the judges can make an independent decision? Well, look. In relation to the courts, not all judges, not all barristers, and not all solicitors are bad, and not all of them are conscious and aware of what's going on the bigger picture. Like, we had a very good ruling that's saved a lot of people from being evicted in this country, and that is the ruling by Judge Elizabeth Dunn. And I suppose he's looked to with some type of hope in some cases would be Ed Honohan, brother of I think it's Patrick Honohan, involved with the central bank. I think chalk and cheese in some senses. Ed Honohan seems to be fairer when it comes to cases of mortgages and so they're not all bad. They're not all bad. Look, if there's a point of law and it can't be defeated, and you can put across a good argument, the judge can do nothing else except rule in your favour.
I do agree that, the law is the law, and they have to stick by the law, and I think Ben Gilroy is an example of that, where Ben has used the law against the system, and in a lot of cases successfully, which is fantastic. But as he said, the woman he tends to come up in front of on a regular basis is Lafoy, and 4 times out of 5 she'll actually rule in favour of the banks rather than the actual the lay litigant. And I think it will depend on what judge you're up against, and their morals, their principles, and what they know and who they're linked to. So fingers crossed. I do hope it goes well. As I say, I don't really know. I didn't know really what to do, what the plans are to do with the property charge. I just know that I don't want to pay it. I just know that our government is a provisional government. They're corrupt. They're just not for the people. And the sooner the better we get rid of them.
And the fact that it's just morally wrong.
It's morally wrong. It's totally morally wrong.
Sure, wasn't Andy Kenny? Andy Kenny said that. I mean, he's on record as saying that. It's morally. I mean, you know as well as I do. You take out a mortgage in this country, and I'm not going to go into how I feel about that. But you take out the mortgage, and you're paying back exorbitant interest rates, and you pay back maybe twice what the property is worth. And then they want you to. It's like as Alan has spoke about before. What's that thing? The perpetual license. It's like as if you've paid it, and now you think that's grand. I now own this. This is mine. This is my little empire. I can leave this for my kids, my grandchildren, whatever. And now they're saying no. Now you have to pay and pay and pay. So it's like a perpetual licensing or something on your house. So therefore, once you register it. And as Crown Copyright on our chat facility always says,
if you register, come in there and just say, you mentioned there about Andy Kenny, and just to quote, what he said was, it's morally wrong, unjust, and unfair to tax a person's home.
That's
and
right, yeah.
He said, and probably in some cases unconstitutional. Now he said that back in 1984 when he was in opposition.
Yeah, but they're great. When they're in opposition, they're brilliant, because they know that what they're saying is going to be irrelevant. And I really get annoyed at these people who are even thinking of voting for Fianna Fáil in again, who are staunch, mainstream political parties. They screw the country, and yet they still vote for them. I just don't get the mentality of these people. Do they not see that these government parties are just a waste of time? They're just a bunch of liars. They'll tell you what you want.
Mind your blood pressure now, will you?
Blood pressure. They'll tell you what you want, and then they just completely change it. I mean, they mandate. I'm waiting on them to knock on my door. I really am, because there'll be 2 words I will come to mind straight away, and the second one is off. I mean, well, maybe something like that. I'll probably throw in a few words before then, but a few choice words. I just don't have time for these people. They want to go in, they feather their own nest, as my granny used to say years ago, and they get their 4 or 5 years, get their big pension, and that's it. They're only interested in themselves. I haven't come across, I haven't met a politician that actually stands up for the people. Now, during the week now, we had Shane Ross, fair play to him, stood up, and he mentioned about the fluoride in the water, and he was having a drink. He said, oh yeah, this water's poisoned. And fair play to him for saying that, and I hope Ashling's campaign, the Girl Against Fluoride, comes on, and they do remove it. I mean, put it this way, if it's costing the government 10 million to put fluoride in the water, how about removing it and save themselves 10 million? There's a good idea, huh?
Yeah, but see, then if they stop putting that in the water, then we'll wake up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when what will hit the fan.
Yeah, definitely, I think, Victor. Well, I think things are happening. People are beginning to wake up en masse. And we just can't let these cowboys get away with it. We really, really can't. And I think, as I say, what you're doing, Colin, if that's the one way you've come across to actually get away from paying this property charge, then brilliant. Let's do it. Bring it on. When is the case going to come up? Do you know when the case is going to be coming up?
Well, there's a notice of motion by the defendants on Monday, tomorrow, to have the case struck out. Now, what they've said in their notice of motion, is that the case is vexatious, and it's they've used a couple of other words. Basically, what they're saying is that that there's no case to answer. So we'll be strenuously defending that tomorrow, and if you want to have us back on, we can give people an update as to how that's going.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we'll do a regular, and we get you on every now and again, and we just get like a quick update on what's happening. Might be a good idea to keep people posted.
Yeah.
But I don't want. I mean, at the end of the day, they cannot take your house from you, based on this property charge. This property, I say property tax. They can't take your house away from you. At the end of the day, and if everybody stood up.
Say for example, someone did manage to not pay they are treating this as a criminal matter. So if you don't register and you don't pay, you could end up finding yourself in jail. And if you went into court and you decided to go into court and defend yourself, you could end up in jail for contempt, or for say you went into court and you're being prosecuted for non-registration, non-payment, and the judge orders you to pay the charge or the fine within so many days or whatever, and you fail to pay it, then you could be brought back in again, or your bench warrant could go out for your arrest and so on. It's not a solution to ignore it or just to do the return to sender. It's not going to work. And when people realise that, then you have to start looking at what are the alternatives. Yeah.
Now, I mean, I suppose if they issue a bench warrant, it means the police will try and turn up and arrest you. But again, you could be at your door and you see the police and you lock your door and you don't say anything, and the police will just go away because they can't break in. But eventually, they will keep coming around maybe, and they will get you one day, and they will be able to arrest you. You can't stay in your house forever. You have to go out.
Yeah.
And
well, we make it very clear, at the talks that we give, that nobody should feel ashamed that they have paid or have registered, because a lot of information or misinformation has gone out in the media as there's been scaremongering and stuff like that, and I'm not surprised that there has been a good number of people that have paid and registered. My point here is that people are scared, people are afraid, and that's the great thing about our campaign or our tour, is that even if people have registered or have paid, they can join this action, so they can, and they can get involved and they can do their bit, and they can say, right, okay, I was coerced, I was intimidated into paying and registering for this household charge property tax. And because what tends to happen, the psychology of people is that when they pay, they start to become advocates for paying. Yeah. And they say, well, I paid, so therefore it's only fair that you should pay.
Yeah.
But we're going to give people an alternative and say, well, okay, I paid, and I paid under duress. I wasn't happy about paying, so now I'm part of this, and I want to see this. I want my money back.
Yeah.
And that's what we're offering people. Now, I should also point out, and I didn't state it earlier on, is that we are not using the services of a solicitor or barrister. We are. This case has been taken as by lay litigants. So it's power to the people.
Yeah. And I mean, people who are, it's obviously scared on the propaganda what the government are doing. I wouldn't. I mean, at the end of the day, people don't have the money. Where did you get the money from? I mean, I know there's no way that personally I have the money to actually pay it. Even if I wanted to pay it, I don't have the money to pay it. So what do? I mean, if the judge, you go to court and the judge said you didn't pay your property charge, and say, Judge, you don't have the money. And what's he going to do? Well, I'll give you 6 weeks to pay it. And I'll go, Judge, I don't have the money. 6 weeks, 6 months doesn't make any difference. I don't have the money.
Well, I mean, you're going down.
Yeah, but what's that going to prove? We'll just come back out and go down again.
Which may be a prison sentence.
Yeah, but what's that going to benefit? It's not going to benefit anybody. Does he think I'm going to, you know...
It'll intimidate those who still haven't paid or still haven't registered. They'll make an example of someone.
That's right.
That's, you know, so in effect it will benefit them.
Although if everyone stands together, I mean, can they actually incarcerate 1 million people?
No.
I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so either.
The facilities to do so.
Well, if you had 500 people in a court and the judge ruled that, and there was a kind of, you know, invade the Bastille, I mean, they just couldn't handle it. And I mean, the Gardaí to stand there and to support this when they're struggling themselves. You know, we know the Gardaí are going through hard times at the moment, not just in their role as a Gardaí, but in their personal lives as well. They're having trouble trying to afford it. And it's these handful of people again, the government at the top, and these people around the government who are controlling it. It's the same with a corporate company. You know, no matter how big the corporate company is, it's always a board of directors that controls the company and filters down the information. And what we have here is Ireland Incorporated, and the board of directors is the Irish government, or the provisional Irish government. And once we realise this, and it's only a handful of men dictating what 4.4 million people do in Ireland, and we have to just stop this and say no more. And the Gardaí have to realise and wake up to this and say no more, because it's affecting everybody. You know, so we have to do something. We have to stop this, or they'll just keep, you know, raping and pillaging the people of Ireland until there's nothing left. Mm-hmm. You know, so I know what you mean.
I just see a comment there by Crown Copyright, and the question was, nobody was intimidated to sign up. Well, I wouldn't agree with that. You know, there's a lot of people out there who aren't as well schooled in the way the system works, and they were hearing things of, okay, this household charge is going to be added on to my electricity bill. Now, my mother's probably like most Irish mothers out there. She wouldn't have her electricity bill outstanding or telephone bill. She'd practically be in to pay it in the post office before even the bill came out. And, you know, that's the reality for a lot of the older generations, and even some of the younger generations. We're not being ageist here or stereotyping people. But I wouldn't agree with that. There is a vast number of people out there who were intimidated into paying and into registering for the household charge property tax. And, you know, that's just what I have to say on that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, we'll just have to see what plays out and what happens. You know, it really does. I mean, maybe the people who know about the OPPT as another kind of way of dealing with it as well, Colm. I'm just saying your way, but there's two options there. And maybe the people who are doing the OPPT and know about the OPPT can come over here, or, you know, educate people over here in a way that we can use the OPPT to make this null and void.
Why couldn't they have made it?
I'd love to see that happening. I'd love to see more clear information and on the OPPT, and if it's a solution that can work, I would happily embrace it as well.
Yeah, I mean,
it's all about solutions.
That's what it is. My concern is that they're getting people to opt in, and I don't know what all that is, opt in. Why do you have to opt in? When the letter is supposed to send a courtesy letter to tell people that. So maybe that's the way you're doing it, but I think you have to understand what's in the letter, because you want to know what you're getting yourself involved with, because any solicitor or lawyer could kind of run rings around you if you really didn't know the law. So you need somebody like Heather to come over here and do a test case with somebody in Ireland on one of the houses, or even the property tax, and have her there as a person who you can bounce off to make this go away. But that would be, again, set a precedent for people of Ireland, and then you use it as a case reference. So that's what we need, ideally.
Absolutely. Like, I suppose where we're coming from is we already have the case in the High Court, you know, and if people want to download the documents and have a read through them themselves, like they'll see the references we've made to the Constitution and how it's repugnant to the Constitution, how it breaches the human rights, and how the household charge property tax coerces people into signing a declaration of liability. Now, that's, you know, they can have a read through those documents and educate themselves.
Yeah, I know. We need to. We just have to learn more about the law and learn more about their game. That's the only way we're going to be able to avoid, or try and avoid as much as we can, is learn how they play the game, because people don't understand. There's a lot of people out there that think legalese is English, and it's not. And that's the confusion, the whole, do you understand what I'm saying? We don't stand under you and all that kind of stuff. And it's their kind of way of changing the English language to suit themselves, and it's their game. And we need to learn, we've said it before on the show, they're playing a game of Monopoly, but they're changing the rules to suit themselves so they win. So you don't play the game, but at the end of the day, sometimes you can't avoid but playing. But if you're going to play the game, try and learn what their rules are as much as you can, I mean, none of us are lawyers or solicitors, but we can try and learn as much as we can. And maybe,
I just want to respond there to a statement there put up by Bluebell. If you don't sign the declaration, what can they do? Well, if anyone has any experience of revenue, this is the case. If you don't make a declaration with the revenue, well, what they'll do is they'll make an estimate of what they reckon you owe them, and they'll come after you for it.
Now, I'm just wondering, if the revenue can get involved and you were to shut down your bank accounts, I mean, technically, get away from the system. They can't, if you don't have bank accounts, because it's not legal to have a bank account, then what can they do? Will they come knocking at your door looking for the money?
Well, that's a possibility. It's a possibility. I want to respond just to some of the questions there. Like Crown Copyright has asked there, has Colm's company got a bank account? Well, the answer to that is no, we don't. We don't. That's why we're having difficulty with payment facilities, and so that people can sign up as shareholders.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so this information, so somebody said on the chat facility there that they couldn't get on the site, but I know Steve went on it there. He was looking at attackthetax.com. So, okay, Colm, well listen, we're going to wind up at the moment. Thanks for coming on. And
well, just before I go, Alan, I just want to get a plug in for some of the events that we have up and coming, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course, yeah, no problem.
Just to mention that we're in Trim. I'll just get you the details now. Give me 1 second. So we're in Dublin on Saturday the 16th in the Louis Fitzgerald Hotel, and that's from 2 to 4. And then we're in Trim. I'm sorry, this wee scroll thing, I'm just waiting for it to come up. I just don't have these off the tip of my tongue. We're in Trim on Saturday the 30th from 11 to 1, and that's in the Trim Castle Hotel. I would encourage people to go onto our website, Attack the Tax. We have contact information up there, and come along to our meetings. It's open to everybody, and we generally what we do in the talks is that we'll give the talk and we'll open it up at the end, and we'll open the floor up to people to come in and ask questions.
Right.
So come along, educate yourself in the household charge property tax. Learn as much as you can about it, and look, join us. It's not about us. It's not about the group that are running the talks. It's about everybody coming together. Doesn't matter, we're non-partisan, non-political, non-religious, sectarian or anything like that. Just come along to our meetings and get educated, and we have a real solution here on how to defeat this tax.
Excellent. Colm, will you send us an email with that information so we can actually read it out on the show as well, and just let people know, just remind them again that you're doing that down in Trim, and maybe just tell us the date again and when it's on. Just say it again.
Yeah, sorry, it's Saturday the 30th. I'm having trouble here with Skype messages coming up, and they're blocking the whole left-hand side of my screen. I'm sorry about this, so I just can't see it, but it's up on the website there, and it's in the Trim Castle Hotel, and that's I believe Saturday the 30th of March.
And what time is that?
That particular talk is from 11 to 1.
Right, in the morning, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Okay, well that's good.
At night, Alan.
At night time. Just after the bar's closed. Okay, well that's...
Just after the bar closes.
So you have drunken people in there. No.
Okay, well guys, thank you very much for having me on.
No problem, Colin. Well, I mean, maybe me and Steve might be able to get down there. If time allows, we'll try and get down, definitely, because we'd like to hear what has to be said. But, Colin, thanks for coming on, and obviously we'll get an update. Keep in touch, keep us posted on, what you're doing and what's going on, and we'll let people know. And as this is a potential solution to stop being raped by the Irish government from a financial point of view. But yeah, just keep us posted and let us know, will you?
Yeah, I will do.
Excellent stuff.
Thanks very much.
Okay, just stay with us there for a minute, Colm. Steve, do you want to say something quick there?
Something quick.
Something quick, okay.
We're just lining up a piece of music.
It was got to do with the colloidal silver.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Colin was just going to give us a quick heads up on colloidal silver, the company, the machine, and what you're doing. So very quickly, Colin.
Well, it's something I've kind of been looking into for 2 years or so. I went off and I got my own distiller. I distill my own water. Now, just to let people know that there is an alternative to an electrical distiller, and it can be purchased from China. I haven't been able to source them anywhere in Europe. And it's something you can just stick on the stove, and you have an electrical pump, which is optional, which powers the condensing unit, which will make the distiller a lot more energy efficient. But that's the distilling end of it, so it is, because you need distilled water or purified water to make a colloidal silver. You can't use well water, you can't use municipal water. That's very, very important that people should know that before you even start out. The other thing that I'd recommend people buy is what's called a TDS meter, a total dissolved solids meter. And they can be picked up for as little as €10. And what they do is they basically test what contaminants or what particles or dissolved solids are in the water. And it's recommended that when you're making silver water that you should start off with water which is less than 2 parts per million of total dissolved solids. So that's another important thing.
Right. Well, maybe.
Thirdly, then, if you're looking at a battery-operated silver colloidal generator, I'd say to you, try and move away from that, because the problem is with battery-operated colloidal silver makers is they don't give out a constant current. So therefore, you're going to have varying making or preparation times for the colloidal silver. There is a guy over in Britain. He has a website. It's www.simplyblessings.co.uk. I purchased from him. I found him to be very friendly, very reliable, and his machine works well. And I think it can be purchased for around €65 delivered and all with the silver rods. So, just on a couple of points, like I've recommended silver colloidal water to a number of friends and family. My mother probably is probably one of the best examples. My mother has rheumatoid arthritis now. It won't work. Silver colloidal water will not work for osteoarthritis. It'll only work for rheumatoid arthritis, and that's because of the difference in the two arthritises and what the causes are. But she's pain-free, and she has a great deal more mobility in her joints and a lot more energy. Very good, very good. That's brilliant. And that's, again, we have to look at the proof, and that's proof enough. And if other people at least try it. I mean, it's fairly cheap as well. But Colin, thanks a lot for coming on. Oh, Steve.
Sorry, just the last question, Colin, just came in via Skype there from Clara, and Clara's wondering how many parts per million of silver are in your water. Right. Anything from say 5 to 8. I wouldn't go beyond 8, because what tends to happen is the silver particles will clump together, and it'll cause the silver water to start turning a kind of a yellowish colour. Silver water works best when the individual particles of silver are independent and they're not clumped. So keep it 5 parts per million is more than adequate.
but somewhere between 5 and 8 is good.
Okay, and anyone just wondering how we ended up talking about this, before we actually came on live, Alan, myself, and Colm were just kind of discussing various things, and that just happened to pop up, and we were just kind of talking about the benefits, because there's a lot of illness going around, and science has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that colloidal silver, it is quite beneficial for a lot of ailments. I think, people need to go off, do their own bit of research, but it is fairly beneficial.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're going to go to a musical break. Just stay with us there for a minute, Colin, and we'll be back after this.
And we are back. That was ET UK, Alan Carner, our good friend, and No Place for a Family Man. I think we mentioned there in last week's show, if you pop along to English Riviera Productions is it .com or .co.uk, it's on the banner just underneath the chat box at the moment. You can get a copy of that CD. It is absolutely brilliant, if I do say so myself. Thoroughly enjoyed listening to it. Still have it in the CD player in the car.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good music. We're just calling Tom at the moment. Now, we know Tom Darcy has been very, very busy and inundated with phone calls, and he's trying to get the media, the mainstream media, the junk media, to report on his story, but nobody seems to be taking it up. And we heard the actual interview that Tom did with T.I. on TNS, and we felt that Tom should come on OYM and tell us his story, and tell the listeners what went on, what's been going on, and obviously what's been any updates since the last interview that he did. So we know he's busy. We're just trying to call him now at the moment. So fingers crossed. We just sent him a text there just to let him know that we're trying to call him on Skype. We know he is around. I don't know where he's at the moment, but he is around. So hopefully we'll try and get him in a few minutes' time. But that was relevant information from Colin that we just had on from Attack the Tax, which I find very interesting. I really don't know. I was just thinking about what we're going to do with the property charge. It was just one of them things that, you just kind of, maybe return to sender, I don't know. I wasn't really sure what way I was going to deal with it. So it's good to see that there's an option there. If the revenue can go in and into your bank accounts, because obviously we don't own the bank accounts, we're just kind of using them.
We have access to them, yeah. We don't actually own them. And I tell you, that was an eye-opener for me when I discovered that the bank account that I assumed was my bank account, in my naivety, it's actually the bank's bank account. And they just, they have loads of these banks, they have loads of them. And all they want is for you to walk in and go, can I have one of them? They go, absolutely, we put your name on that. Now there you go. And but still theirs, it's their property. And it's only, it kind of makes sense when you think about it, that revenue can go in. The banks can go, yeah, absolutely. You want to go in and take money out of his account, or the account with his name on it, absolutely, go right ahead. And they open the door and let them in, and you're kind of going, hold on a second, you're letting them take money out of my account, and they're going, yeah, well, sure, what can you do?
Exactly.
But, as we said before, you don't need a bank account. It's dead handy to have one. It makes things easy. But realistically, you can get on quite nicely without a bank account. And I do believe it was when we had Marcus McKeown, whose book is also available there. Very, very interesting read, how the banks are screwing you and what you can do about it. That's a must read for everybody. Everyone needs to read that book. But I do believe when we had Marcus up in the studio, it was actually Marcus who said that he can function quite nicely without a bank account. The man doesn't have one, doesn't need one.
It is. I mean, it's harder to actually function without a bank account, because the bank accounts do make it easier for transferring money. Now, he was managing to do it, but he kind of said, well, what you do is you have the cash and you go down to the travel agency and, give them the money if you're going down and booking a hotel, or you're booking you're booking a car, a rental car, or you're booking a holiday. Now, I was listening to what's your woman, Catherine Albrecht, who's the expert with RFID. And we're hoping to try and get her on the show, but she's been very elusive at the moment. And she's a person that tries avoid using credit cards, and she uses cash all the time. And she said it's getting harder and harder these days to go in and use cash. To the stage, she said it's getting to a level now that some places won't actually take the cash.
You're
You have to,
joking.
yeah. She said she went into a couple of places and they wouldn't either take the cash or they didn't have the facilities to take the cash, and they said, do you not have a card? And she said, no, I don't have a card.
That's unreal.
It's not unbelievable.
That is unreal. I mean, business refusing cash. That's... I mean, well, is it something that we didn't think was going to happen? I think we've been saying it for a while that, that was kind of the direction that this whole thing was going. The cashless society, and I mean, there's obviously that's proof of the proof is in the pudding, as they say.
Exactly. Well, was the National Westminster Bank, or what bank was in Kells, that closed down and said they're only taking
NIB, National Irish.
Yeah. They're not taking money anymore across the counter. That everything's got to do with, has to be credit cards or plastic.
Yeah, is that bank still there? Is it gone?
I think it's gone.
I think the last time I was up on that, in that neck of the woods, it was gone anyway.
They closed it down and moved it to Navan, as far as I know. And Navan's not too far from where we are in Walton's Mountain. But they closed it down, and they said it, and I think we said it before in the show about Bank of Scotland, talking about that as well. If I remember rightly, one show we actually talked about it. There was a statement made about the cashless society. And if you have a look at the interview, if you type in Catherine Albrecht on YouTube later on and have a look at the interview she does regarding the cashless society and RFID, it's quite frightening that it's getting to the stage where places won't accept cash. Now, we're still educating people regarding the NFC, the near field communications. There's that facility on some mobile phones, and you can download the demo software which can read credit cards by just scanning them. And I've been educating a few people on this and showing them how it works, and they're flabbergasted that this can be done.
I actually I was telling my sister, the story about when you were able to do this on a phone and you were able to demonstrate to an individual. I was telling my sister that story last night, and to say, I mean, my sister thinks I wear a tin hat, at the best of times. She doesn't believe a word I say. She's one of these kind of, if Stephen says it, it's conspiracy theory, or it's lies, or it's BS, and that's just the way she is. But when I told her this last night, I even told her that I could get it demonstrated for her and prove it beyond the shadow of a doubt. And to say her jaw was on the floor was an understatement. It was on the floor, and it was under the floor. She couldn't believe it. And she actually, for the first time, when I told her something, rather than just kind of say yeah whatever and dismiss it, she was kind of gobsmacked, and she actually got angry. And for the first time, I've never seen her getting angry over something that I might have said in relation to the subjects that we discussed. But she got angry, and she went on, well, why are the banks why are they letting this happen? And I says, well, because that's the future. But she thought, that can't be right. I said, well, that is the future. I said, they want you to have this technology, so therefore when you go into the shop to buy your groceries or whatever, you can pick up your groceries and you don't even have to take cash out, you don't even have to take a card out. All you have to do is be within a metre of this device. It will automatically do the dealings for you. And you've paid for your groceries. And she said, but if it's that easy for people to scam and rob your details, they can't let this happen. And it's just when she actually said it, they can't let this happen. She actually sounded a bit like David Icke. The way sometimes Dave would say stuff like that. But no, she was gobsmacked. When they take the money out of the system, that's when there's going to be so much corruption, because it's just numbers on a computer then, and then it's just going to be, carte blanche for the banks to do what they want. It's just unbelievable. I was watching an interview during the week, and it was got to do with the UK government and the UK banks. And basically, the banks going off, gambling, obviously they do with the money, and they lose the money and come back and go, sure, let the taxpayers pay it. And that's really the kind of, offhand remark they make. Let the taxpayers cover that. And that's the disregard they have for us, the taxpayers. That's the complete disregard. They just squander the money and do what they want. And for anybody interested, Brian has been doing a great job with the UK column. And every week, every day, I think it's obviously the audio is on TNS as well, but you can catch up on the videos
on YouTube, and Brian and Louise, I believe, and Mike are doing a great job over there. Great information on what's coming out in the UK, frightening at the same time. But it's good to get the information out and to let people know what's going on, and that's what we try and do here. Any information we come across. Now, there are links that have come into us, and we need to, again, we'll be sending links out and let people know what's going on and things that we come across. Thanks everybody for sending the links. What we try and do is, because we have very limited time, video links and text links with, like, one page of text is great. If you have, 5 or 6 pages of text, we wouldn't have time to read it. Unfortunately, it'll take too much time. But 1 page of text is great. Little stories that are coming out in the press, and obviously videos that we can listen to in the background while we're doing other stuff is brilliant. So if you have any information, we really need to get the information out there. We need to ramp up what we're doing as best we can, because as I mentioned earlier when I read out on Alan's Week about the death threats are one way to disable the purveyors of conspiracy theories. Actual assassinations are another. And this was in America. They were talking about it. One of the statements through Obama's regime, that they might be kind of, ramping up what happens, people who are speaking out against the system. So this George Orwell, New World Order, is coming into play more and more as we speak. And if you look back 10 years, I just can't believe how much the world has changed just in the 10-year period. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
If you look down the road, if you could see, we could see it, but we couldn't believe it. I mean, I read about some of this stuff 10 years ago, and I just couldn't believe that would happen, but it's happening now.
When you read about it 10 years ago, it was like science fiction.
It was, yeah.
That's what it was. It was something that, it was like reading about Star Trek or something. It was so far-fetched. You would see the end game and you go, that'll never happen. The people won't let that happen. And now 10 years, we're 10 years closer to it, and we're kind of seeing that it is happening. Okay, there are people who are actively trying to stop it. Say the likes of Colm there, and various other people, various other I won't say organisations. Well, maybe organisations, only because that they're insofar that they're organised in what they're doing. Like say here, and also TNS, to name just two. I mean, there's a lot of organisations who are doing their damnedest to wake people up, but unfortunately, it seems it's an uphill battle. It really is. But
the other sideline to that as well, Steve, and that, as you know, is you become a leper in your own community. And I'm sure we've all felt that, if not in your own family, in your own community, where you're trying to wake people up and they just don't get it. They just think you're a conspiracy theorist. They just think you're weird. And, just do what you have to do. You have to pay the bill. Why don't you just pay the bill? And they don't even see what's behind this and why they have to pay the bill. They don't question it. Well, maybe they're NIMBYs. Maybe that, who's the DJ? That Jerry Ryan said, Ireland is a country full of NIMBYs, not in my backyard. Maybe they have the financial background maybe they have the money to pay it, and they just say, we'll just pay it. But even then, they don't realise what's coming down the line. We're all in a line of dominoes. We're all in different positions in the line of dominoes. But if we don't stand up and do something about it, we're going to be knocked down, and there'll be nobody left to help with these people. And that's what they don't realise. There's nobody going to be left for them. And they'll be crying, going, "Oh, somebody help us." There'll be nobody left. So we have to stand up. This is a matter of principle. Whether you have the money or not to pay the property charge or any fines coming out. I mean, it's getting harder and harder, and people are losing their houses. They're losing their homes, families are breaking up, people are struggling, even to try and get the basics like food. Loads of people now, there are some people who are used to a certain lifestyle, and times have kind of got hard, and they still want to have that lifestyle. And they're saying, well, we're finding it hard because it's very hard to pay my Sky and very hard to pay my contract phones and very hard to keep the BMW going. And we know there's people out there. No, seriously, I'm serious.
Oh, I know.
I've heard stories and read stories of people going, yeah, finding it hard to, pay for this and pay for that. I mean, literally, when I say that, I have personally cut everything back down to the bone. You know, literally, I've cut everything down to the bone. Even our telephones are through the broadband. We don't even pay landline. Steve, it's the same.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Although I haven't reached the same level as Alan yet. I mean, Alan doesn't even wear shoes anymore. As Brendan Grace, an Irish comedian, once said, Alan paints his feet black and laces up his toes.
Yeah, I wear sandals. They're nice and comfortable. But it's gas because I have come across people and they said, yeah, times are really hard. And then they pull out an iPhone 5 out of their pocket.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine being able to afford an iPhone.
Yeah.
You know,
never mind an iPhone 5, an iPhone 1.
iPhone 1. Yeah, I can't even afford the case it comes in, let alone the iPhone itself.
No, but you're right. It's just different levels of hardship. People have a lifestyle that they become accustomed to, and as you're saying, like someone that has the BMW or has the latest gadgets, gizmos, and technology, you know, and when they're finding it tough, they're just on a different level than us. I mean, okay. When we were finding it tough, and I don't mind saying this, I mean, at the end of the day, I think, like everyone out there, we're all kind of part of the one community, we're all family, we're all humans, we all live, as Vin would say, Vin at TNS, we all live on this blue ball that's flying through space. That's where we all live, you know. But I found it tough as well, and I cut my cloth to suit my means, got rid of certain things at home, stopped using certain things, bought a cheaper product, got rid of the phone because, you know, it was costing €26 a month on the line rental. And as Alan said, we need the broadband because the broadband can do so much. My phone is through the broadband as well, and it's just because it's cutting out something that I don't need. You know, to have a phone line come into the house, it could be considered as a luxury, but rather than moan about it, I just kind of took action and I got rid of it. You know, and there's other things as well, which I'm not going to go into, but there's other things that we've done. You know, we've kind of really cut our cloth to suit our means, and you know, it's just something that has to be done.
Yeah, really you have to.
And then for someone to come along after that, as you have, you know, they talk about this bullshit, and I do apologise for saying that word. Actually, my daughter educated me. Bullshit is a compound word. It's two separate words that, when put together, joined together, form a new word. Bullshit. It's amazing what you can learn. Amazing what you can learn from a 12-year-old. It really is. But you know, like us, there's probably a lot of people around the country like us that have really cut back on so much and they're just barely making ends meet, and then you just think you're doing enough to get by, and then they say, oh, by the way, we're going after your bank account. You didn't pay that, we're going to take that out of your bank account. Oh, TV, you haven't got a TV license, have you? Oh, we're going to nail you to the wall. And every hand's torn, they want to take more. So it's did you ever see that picture on the internet of a guy, there's a bank, there's a river, and there's a bank on the left, the bank on the right, the river bank, not a bank, and there's a guy on the left, and he's just a poor, you know, regular Joe, and he has his fishing rod in the water, he's fishing out a fish. On the far side of the bank is a banker, and he has a fishing rod, but his fishing rod is not in the water, it's in your man's back pocket. Beautiful picture. So it really sums it up. Sorry, please continue.
No. I
don't think we're getting Tom on.
No, I think we're just trying Tom again. We have texted him to say we are calling him. But you know, again, Tom is a very busy man. If he doesn't get on tonight, we'll probably try and get him for next week. We did arrange the interview with Tom, but as you say, he's busy. His phone's always going. People want to talk to him, and I'm sure he's up to his eyes anyway. But yeah, it's just people are struggling. It's getting worse. Somebody mentioned on the TNS chat there that some people are living in one bedroom flats or bed and breakfast, and it's just going to get worse because Pat Rabbit obviously mentioned about the broadcast license now. They're not happy that they know that people have got rid of the TV sets, and they won't get money off them for TV license. So what Pat Rabbit wants to do is bring out a broadcast license. So regardless of what you have, whether you live in a tent, you still have to pay it.
And why is that?
Because they want money.
Because you may not have a TV, but you might have a mobile phone which can pick up Wi-Fi or internet. You may have a tablet, you may have a laptop or a home PC, computer, Mac, whatever, that may be capable of receiving transmitted broadcast. So therefore, he's going to bring out this new broadcast license. It's going to cover everything. And seemingly he's on record, and for the people outside of Ireland listening, this is how idiotic some of our politicians are, and you wonder, you know, how they get elected. You wonder how they get up in the morning. You wonder how they dress themselves. But he seemingly he's on record as saying that even if you don't have a TV set, you don't have a mobile phone, you don't have a tablet, you don't have a PC, laptop, etc., you will still be required to pay for this because the services are there. If you don't avail of them, that's your problem. But it's a blanket tax, the broadcasting taxes or broadcasting charge, whatever it's going to be. It's going to apply to everyone in the country, irregardless, say, of whether you do have a TV or any other device. I was actually reading something during the week on a forum, and the forum there was a lot of angry people on it. And one of the postings on the forum said in that case they could actually hit pedestrians and people who use public transport. They could hit you with road tax. And you could say, hang on a second, I don't have a car. I don't even use the road. And then the government could say, yes, but the road is provided for you. If you don't use it, that's your problem. We've provided the road. I mean, come on. That would probably, I mean, I know that's kind of far-fetched end of the scale, but who's to say, 6 months down the line, we won't be there?
And I know there was a meeting here recently where we are in our location in County Meath, where they were having a meeting regarding the potholes in the road and the state of the roads. And you can guarantee that if any minister was there, he probably would have said, he said, we'd be able to fix them roads, but because you're not paying the property charge, we can't do anything. And you think, hang on a minute, we're paying road tax.
Yep.
That's exactly what that is. I mean, some of these potholes are unbelievable.
Yeah, but was mentioned last week there that most towns in Ireland would have a St. Patrick's Day parade. For whatever reason, they just have an El Paddy's Day parade, and one of the towns around here, County Meath, Athboy, was on the news and the RTE news. I can't remember what Mick and Liffey sound. The Rothschild something. He had a kind of a lovely anagram for RTE, but they did have a news program. I think it was on after the news. No, it was actually on the news. This actually made the news. That's what it was. They had to cancel their St. Patrick's Day parade this year because the council were digging up the road left, right, and centre to do maintenance that needed to be done, but they left the road in rag order. So the Paddy's Day parade had to be cancelled because the road was up, it was down, there was potholes, or as we refer to them here, they're not potholes, they're inverted speed bumps.
Inverted speed bumps.
Well, I mean, Jesus, you slow down when you see them, don't you?
Well, yeah, totally, yeah. I mean, some of these potholes. But I did hear a story, and a mechanic told me this, a local mechanic told me this, where a lady actually did bring the council to court. Now, anything under £1,000, I believe, it's £20 to file a claim against a small criminal court, a small claims court. And I'd be interested to know, I mean, I don't know what process she did, but apparently she won. So if it's only €20 to actually file a small claim in the court, it might be worthwhile. I mean, God forbid, if anything happened to my vehicle,
your vehicle, your property.
My property.
Your property.
And I got damaged. I would, for the sake of £20, I would take out a small claim against the county council, because I'm sure they have a duty of care. In some way or shape, they must have a duty of care to people using the road. It's like health and safety. They must have it. So I'd be interested if anybody has actually done that or tried it or thinking of doing it. Yeah. If your car has been damaged. Because they must have a duty of care. I mean, at the end of the day.
Well, you have a duty of care with the whole NCT. You have to. This is a national car tax. National car test. I just call it the national car tax, where you have to bring your car. And you would say this is really only applicable to. The people in Ireland will know what we're talking about. The people outside would probably know it as an MOT. But you have to bring your car, and you have to prove and have a certificate and a disc on your window to prove that your car is worthy in a fit state to be on the roads. And as Alan said, and I totally agree, I think the other side of that coin should be that the councils, the county councils, they should have a duty of care to provide roads that are worthy of your car being on. And I agree, if your car is damaged by going into one of these potholes or inverted speed bumps, then you should be able to go down. I mean, I a couple of years ago, I know a friend of mine. He was on the motorway, the M4 here in Ireland, and he did hit something on the M4. It was a rock, and he actually damaged the sump of his car. And he did say to me he was severely annoyed. He did actually go to the council and asked them. Of course, he's clued in now. He wasn't as clued in back then. But he did go to them and he mentioned to them that this rock was on their road, of which he was driving, and he has road tax and he has he's insurance and he's a driving license and all this carry on. And he said, "What can you do for me?" And they said, "Well, you should have just avoided it." And he said, "But hang on," he said, that rock was on on your road, and you're supposed to make sure that those roads are safe." And it was him who was saying about, like, my car is NCT'd and I have to prove my car is safe to be on the road. But that wasn't clearly in the middle of the road. Why was it there? And I think there was emails and phone calls and letters backwards and forwards. In the end, his stress levels told him, forget about it, you're wasting your time, because he wasn't getting anywhere. But I totally agree, there should be something that can be done.
There has to be a duty of care with the county council on that, Now, Graham Copyright said, "Yeah, Alan, it's not your car." Yeah, I know it's theirs. I'm the registered keeper. I'm aware of that, and that's...
Well, you're also the one who's paying for the damn thing, so I think, I'd say it's yours.
Yeah. Well, I reckon if everybody knows the sketch that was on Not the 9 O'Clock News, if you're old enough like me and Steve are, you probably remember the police officer that was pulled up in front of his sergeant, and he kept on picking on a certain individual. I think it was 100 and something times, and he had crimes like coughing with undue care and attention, loitering with intent to cross the road at a pedestrian crossing, and I mean, that's the way it's going to get. We will get to the stage that it's just going to get ridiculous with George Orwell, unless of course we have the solar system that's coming in, which we mentioned last week on the show, Project Wormwood, which apparently is going to have could have major effects on the planet. I mean, they didn't tell us anything about that Russian meteorite. Sure, they didn't.
Nope.
They didn't say anything.
Not a whisper.
They didn't say anything. And all these sinkholes happening all around the world. I mean, that's unbelievable, all these sinkholes happening. So, I don't know, there's a few things on. Somebody mentioned about St. Patrick and Patrick's Day. Listen, if anybody knows the contact details to St. Patrick, will you pass them on? We'd like to get them back over here, because there's a bunch of snakes in the Dáil that are here they didn't get rid of. We need to get them in. We need to get them to get rid of them. Or a sinkhole in the Dáil would be quite good. That would be quite handy as well.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier about the sinkholes, there's other holes up there in the Dáil, which I won't mention. I won't lower the tone.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, surely these people have family and friends and relations. They must be saying something to them. I mean, Pat Rabbit, Enda Kenny, he must have, cousins. He must have brothers and sisters. They must, they must be in the same situation, or at least saying something to him. I mean, they can't be that devoid of what's going on. I know they have a hard neck, a lot of them. They have a hide like a rhinoceros, but at the end of the day, they have to have some empathy. If they don't, then they're just like AI beings, artificial intelligence, no empathy, no soul. They're just doing what the masters are telling them. So they must be, there must be a way to get through to these people. But I mean, for the next time that we get them, the election comes up, we'll have to try and put in a different party. But we do have Tom on the line. We've 15 minutes to go, so we're going to be very quick. Good evening, Tom. How are you?
Good evening to you. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
No problem.
Thanks for answering the Skype, Tom.
Yeah, we've been trying to call you for the last half hour, Tom.
Would you believe I'm preparing for court tomorrow?
Oh, well then that's a good enough excuse, Tom, we have 15 minutes. We heard your interview with TOA, which is very good, on TNS. Can you just give us a heads up very quickly and then tell us what the latest information is, if you can?
Well, basically, we put out on Facebook roughly about 2,000 statements for people to go into the Garda station to initiate a mass criminal investigation into the criminal actions of the banks. I'm hoping and expecting that the judiciary will recognise the fact that a criminal investigation supersedes any civil action, and thus it will result in the suspension of all civil actions against basically every person out there who the banks are currently suing.
Fantastic. And this is basically got to do with the fact that you lost your brother and your sister and your mother, and the banks were coming after you. They didn't give you enough time. You wanted a bit of time to get over your losses, and the banks weren't interested, and basically they were coming after you. And the one thing that sickened me when I heard the interview and what you said was the judge turned around and said something like, "That's no excuse not to appear in court."
Well, unfortunately, there was a lot of issues pertaining to those last 18 months, and I did lose my two brothers and ultimately then lost my mother. Of course, when a person has such a bereavement, they usually go into zombie mode, and everything else really doesn't have that much significance in life. By the time I actually got around to having any form of rational thought, it was too late, because the banks had gone in and basically got summary judgment. And anybody that has dealt with the courts will know that basically at that time, and even up to the last couple of weeks, it was always in favour of the banks. The decisions were always going to go against lay litigants. And, you know, there's been so much said about, you know, people who, just like myself, who got into the property business, or builders, or people who got into leasing houses or whatever, that we basically all deserved what happened to us. But the reality is that there's not one of us who are not victims in this. The reality is I didn't break the law, you didn't break the law, your listeners didn't break the law. The people who broke the law are the people who created this. And I was just listening there about, just before I came on, about politicians. I had numerous politicians to my door during this period, and they gave, as they did every person, an undertaking, an oral agreement that they wouldn't cut social welfare, that they wouldn't cut education, that they wouldn't cut healthcare, that they wouldn't cut pensions. They broke that oral contract. And what does it say about us to accept that they stood to your door, they looked into your eye and lied to you, and we accepted that? The reality for me was I'd nobody representing me. I went into court armed literally with little bits of knowledge I had, and against a might that represent NAMA. They represent the barrister I'm talking about. The solicitors company is probably one of the biggest and affluent solicitors companies in Ireland, and of course they're all paid by the taxpayer, your very listeners at the present moment. And I was just one man against them. Daniel and Goliath, people have called it. They got their possession, and from that an article went into one of the Sunday newspapers, and I started to amalgamate a lot of information. And subsequently, and this is only the start of it, and you are only the second members of the media to invite me to basically state exactly what's going on. 27 member states of Europe. Not one person in the world has ever done what I've done. And yet, there's only 2 members of the Irish media willing to have me on the radio.
That's incredible. That's sad.
Well, it certainly raises the question, and I have been on to regularly all the mainstream media, even as late as yesterday. And I've spoken to the Redditors, and I've spoken to the researchers, and I've spoken to basically anybody that wants to listen. But the reality is that you do not want the banks undermined right now. They didn't want them undermined 4 years ago when they bailed them out at 32 billion. Then it went to 70, then it went to 120. And we just concede because of the disinformation we're given. But the reality is that in 2 months' time, the Irish government are going to ratify Judge Dunn's legislation, which has created a void for the banks, preventing them from repossessing houses. The Irish government, on behalf of its citizens, remember, every TD are supposed to represent your interests. That won't be reflected when they ratify that legislation that will allow the banks to basically repossess and evict people on a mass scale. Currently, and I'm always one for economics, the Irish government have imposed more financial burdens and taxation on this nation than the English did in 800 years. And if the Irish government get their legislation in 6 weeks' time, they will evict more Irish people than the English did in 800 years. So to every nationalist out there who considers that you fought a cause, well, redirect your sight now on the very persecutors who are persecuting a nation who done nothing wrong, broke no laws, but placed their trust in a regulated entity that now we know was unlicensed. So, unfortunately, the legal fraternity are not taking this up, because the reality is that, again, based on economics, just to keep myself interested when I'm sitting in court doing nothing, and if your listeners have a calculator handy, or even turn on your mobile phone to the calculator mode, I'll give you a little statistic. Sitting in Court 23, which some of your listeners will know is the debtors' court, where when you default on a loan or a credit union or a credit card loan, you sit there and you wait for your name to be called, while a solicitor and a barrister on behalf of the debt collecting agency who brought you, who are basically represented by the solicitor's company who initially sent a letter on behalf of the bank. I sat and I listened to 30 cases an hour by the one barrister, and it got me thinking, 30 cases an hour, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. So I contacted the solicitor's company he represented, and I asked him how much a solicitor and a barrister gets paid hourly. And they amalgamated together at €465 an hour, times 30 cases an hour, times 6 hours of the day, times 5 days of the week, times 40 weeks of the legal year. Sure, your listeners have probably come up to a figure of around 300 million. One person for one debt collecting agency who's billing the banks, who the banks are paying with taxpayers' money for billing taxpayers. That's a very ironic and strange analogy, but unfortunately it's the truth. And I reported this to Michael Noonan a year ago, and I told him there was €1 billion scandal being perpetrated on the Irish taxpayers of this country. That is just one of over 200 issues that people brought information to me and wanted it outed. And I would ask any person who has any information today, I have retained your confidentiality, I've retained all your confidence, and I will never divulge it. But please send me all the information you have. My next port of call is the European Licensing Authority. They're the ones who license the Irish banks to trade internationally. It's going to be rather unusual when they find out that the Irish banks weren't licensed.
And that's the case at the moment. The Irish banks were bailed out, so they were trading insolvent, which means, and this is my understanding of it, is that they were using their customers' money to trade, which is not allowed when you're insolvent.
One of the basic principles, and I don't want to get legalistic because basically you can quote Latin, but I was worried with the philosophy, when you're born with a pain in the ass, you don't become one. Excuse me the French. But the reality is that the fundamental, on the declaration of a banking licence, page 13, which everybody can download from the central bank, you clearly state that all the information you've given is the truth, and failure or misrepresentation will result in the revocation of the licence. They clearly stated that they would notify the central bank of any material change that would affect their everyday running. Now, if you're insolvent, that's probably one good reason to notify that you're having problems. They broke that law. That was the first and the immediate law I seen. And from that, there was a litany of laws. And then they all interconnected. And if there's pensioners out there who had investments in Anglo-Irish or the AIB or the Irish Permanent TSB, they will know that they went to the AGMs and they listened to the financial records being read out. In those financial records, there should have been a statement that they didn't adhere to the legislative requirement on renewal of their licence. They didn't adhere to the loan-to-value ratios of securities that were supposed to be deposited within the central bank. All of that should have been identified in the financial records, because by law you're supposed to give a true reflection of your financial status. So all those people who lost their life savings, all those people who lost everything, I think you should start knocking on the door of the central bank.
It's not very good. Tom, we've got 4 minutes now. What we might do is, because we want to just have a chat with you for a few more minutes before we let you go. So what we might do is we'll have to hand over the TNS stream to Vin, or unless Vin doesn't mind us running over for a few minutes. Steve, if you can contact Vin and just ask him there if he doesn't mind us running over for a few minutes with Tom. Because obviously we know that you have the court case. You just mentioned that you have the court case in the morning. What is the court case, what you planning to try and achieve tomorrow in the court case?
Well, basically, I attended court there in January, and the judge said she had no jurisdiction. Now I'm told, I left the court. Basically, that was the very first day a judge directed me to go to An Garda Síochána, because I identified the fact of the criminal activity of the bank. Now, I'd raised this in several affidavits for the last year. This is going right back to early last year, because straight away people notified me. I suppose the general public reading the story probably sympathised or empathised with me, and they wanted to stop. It was like something I put out on Facebook. Since I started on Facebook 9 days ago, I've had hundreds, if not thousands, of emails from people, and they're heart-rending emails. People divulging the most intimate aspects of their life. Mothers, mainly mothers. And I've always said throughout my life, it's the mothers who suffer. In our rising, they were the ones who buried us, and in the rising, they were the ones who attended our wounds. Now they're looking at their children going to school hungry. They're looking at their children unable to get health care, get autistic teachers, are sick and infirm, and, you know, they can't help them. Their carers are taken away from them. They're looking at their children unable to go to college. Those that do go to college won't be able to get a job when they come out. They're looking at their husbands or partners or loved ones basically sitting there falling apart, blaming themselves that they've lost their home and lost their job and not able to support their family. That is the reality. And reading through those words, I have found myself in tears. And it has taken a long time for me to be even able to shed them. But reading those stories, and of course they were given to me in confidence, and I will never divulge anything.
Yeah.
But it is heart-rending to consider that this is the 21st century. This is Ireland. And yet, there is no democracy. There is no equality. There is no fairness. There is no justice. All we receive, as I do, every time I go into court, I have a mantra. People were attended in the Supreme Court, where I basically said exactly the same thing. I've contacted the Master of the High Court, the President of the Law Society, the President of Ireland, in relation to the inequality of me as a lay litigant having to defend myself against the might of a seasoned barrister, against the might of a large solicitors company. It is not just, it's not fair, it's not equal, and yet, according to the Constitution, it clearly states that I'm supposed to be treated equally, fairly and justly. And like every person, there will be hundreds of lay litigants in the next week in my shoes, and hundreds to follow. And they too will stand there, and they won't receive justice. They won't receive equality.
I just think that, I look at myself and Steve, and we both are in, we're juggling the balls as much as we can, and a lot of people are doing the same thing, and we don't know how much we can carry on doing that. We really don't. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we're just in that situation now that, especially with the property tax coming out and this new broadcast license, and you're just hoping that your car doesn't break down and need to get repaired, or there's no extra cost, because it'll just blow what you have out of the water. And I'm sure there's thousands of people in Ireland in the same situation, if not in a worse situation. When does it stop? When do we put our foot down and say no more?
Well, that's basically, again, I'm looking at people from all over the country replying to me. And we look at collectively or parochially, the problem is Dublin. When you have people in Donegal or Cork or Limerick or Galway or Louth or Meath or Kilkenny, all with the same problems. And I must admire our ancestors because they had no phones, no Facebook. All they had was a quill and a piece of paper, and yet they could get a country to unite. Unfortunately, the Celtic Tiger gave us one thing, it gave us materialism, but it gave us another bigger problem. It isolated us and alienated us from each other, from our neighbours, from our friends. And cohesively, we need to realign to the basic principles that all these taxations, all these burdens, ultimately, if you're looking at your service charges increasing by 35%, if you're looking at the money you're being given by reducing weekly, ultimately you will have no standard of life. You will have a bare existence. And desperation will force this nation to do something. I don't think we need to go to that point. There is a lot, and I mean hundreds, if not thousands of families right now, sitting in the dark, embarrassed and humiliated. There is people who cannot send their kids to school tomorrow because they've no money. The reality to that is that people go, that's their own problem. It is not. Because by next Friday you could be out of a job. You could be notified that you're not going to have a job in a week's time or a month's time. So what do you do then? Is it somebody else's problem then? The reality is that we must take stock of the situation we're in and address it and do something. And I keep using the phrase, we have to say the word enough. We can look across Europe and we have seen the Greeks, we have seen the Spanish, we've seen the Italians riot on the streets. It didn't achieve anything, and nor would I condone violence. There is a much easier solution to address this problem, to make the Irish government sit up and take notice. And I have an abundance of solutions, and I'm basically awaiting an invitation from mainstream media or even ministers or anybody in the government to talk to me. Because the reality is that the Irish banks broke the law. They established contracts based on an illegal licence. And every listener here today who drives a car with no licence, they know it invalidates their insurance policy, invalidates any claim you would ever have. So the reality for the banks is that they have over 200 billion euros of agreements out there that are now in serious question of the validity of them. So my note to the minister, if he's listening, which more than likely he won't be because he's probably enjoying himself right now, you gave an undertaking to the Irish people that you wouldn't cut taxation, you wouldn't increase taxation. And you haven't touched the principle of taxation, but yet you've increased stealth taxes by 16% month on month. You've reduced social welfare. You've reduced a nation to its knees. And the only privilege you've given is the fact that you said you will take a 10% cut in pay salary, when in fact the Irish ministers got a 300% increase in the 4 years leading up to 2008. So to take 10% is not much of a hardship. You take 10% off the social welfare of €186 for a single person. That's the difference between whether or not they're going to have to walk into town or not.
I know what you mean, Tom. Tom, we're stuck for time.
No, we're okay. We can go till 9:15.
Okay, fine. Okay, well we got another
a minute past.
Another 10 minutes. What we'd like you to do? I know you're in a court case tomorrow, and somebody on the chat facility said, "What's Tom in the court case for?" But the two things I just want to touch base with. Maybe next week, Tom, if you come on next week, again we'll arrange for about 8:15, 8:30. If you can come on and give us an update on how you get on the court case. But the two things I want to just ask you, two questions we have left, is one, can you talk about why you're in court tomorrow? And two, why the media will not speak to you? Why they're ignoring you?
Well, as I said, on the 21st of January this year, I got up and I gave my same mantra in court, raising the violations, tendering a copy of the banking license application to the judge, and she actually, to be fair to the judge, she gave me time to actually state it. Normally I'm shut down immediately. I'm blackballed, but she actually gave me the time, and she was the one who basically directed me to report it to An Garda Síochána, which gave me a little bit more of an advantage going into the Guards to say that I was directed by a High Court judge. She said she'd no jurisdiction to rule on the matter that I was dealing with on that day, which was basically trying to set aside the orders made by Judge McGovern. I found out last week that, in fact, there was some class of order which I'm totally unsure of, because there's nothing registered, and I have to find out whether or not it was an ex parte agreement or order made in my absence again. So I'll find that out tomorrow. The second point you asked in relation to the media. As I said there at the start, there's 27 countries in Europe, and to do anything the first time would certainly gain some form of interest or recognition, irrespective of what it was. But remembering when I went to the Garda station first, they refused to take my seat categorically, even though a member of the Irish media followed me in. It was a friend of mine, and he asked the guards why they wouldn't take it, and they wouldn't talk to him. And then I went a week later to another Garda station, and they refused to take a statement. Now, this again is rather unique, because the guards have never refused to take a legitimate statement off any person. They've actually taken statements of flying saucers. So somebody coming in making a complaint and statement in relation to criminality should be taken quite seriously. Ultimately, it took 2 weeks for the guards to take my statement. And then ultimately, I didn't receive a pulse number. Now I contacted BBC, Sky News, CNN, Australian media, Beijing, Hong Kong. I went as far afield as South America, all the media outlets. I went to Irish embassies across the world, seeking for them to place in pressure on the Irish media to report this. I have contacted the Pat Kenny Show. I've contacted The Late Late Show. I've contacted Primetime. I've contacted TV3, Carrefour, the Irish Independent, Sunday Business Post, the Irish Times, the Evening Herald. I know them all off by heart and all their numbers. And nobody wants to report the first person in Irish history, the first person in 27 European countries who has brought a criminal charge against an Irish bank. Now, the media don't seem to be able to report this. Maybe it's got to do with the fact that their licence is issued by the Irish government. And maybe, just like some decent men and women out there who work in the legal fraternity, who are giving people assistance, but they have to do it anonymously because they cannot publicly divulge themselves, because they would lose their job and be blacklisted. And this is the democracy we live in. This is Ireland, not Cuba, not China. This is democracy in Ireland, where your rights, your entitlements, your constitution doesn't exist. There's no aspect of the Irish constitution that represents its people. If you consider that Section 41 of the Constitution in relation to the family is to protect the inalienable right, they're supposed to be held above all law, which would then mean, by interpretation, if they're to be held above all law, how are the sheriffs knocking people's doors down? They're a civil servant implied by the law. So I could bore your listeners all night long. I have done nothing for the last year but consume myself in laws and legislation and constitutional law, and with the help of some amazing people who have given me all their expertise and all their knowledge, and all I am is just a vocal point just to expedite everything through their knowledge. The issue of Tom Darcy, people have said to me, oh, you were a developer. I invested, yes. I broke no laws. And that old thing is just redundant. As I've said already, we all got on a plane. Some of us had more seats than others. We took off. The pilots came running past us with golden parachutes. They were the bankers. Flight control, who was the central bank, they done nothing. And the aviation authority, who was the Irish government, done nothing. And now all of them want to sue us, persecute us, penalise us, tax us to death. We all done nothing wrong. We all did not break a law. The central bank did for not enforcing the legislation.
Yeah.
The banks did for criminally negligently omitting and misrepresenting the truth when they were filling out their application forms, when they were filling out their financial records. And the Irish government did, and still are, by A, suppressing the truth, penalising the very people who did not break the law. It's rather unique and ironic that we are a country who are supposed to recognise people who are abused. Yet every person who's listening to this, directly or indirectly, whether you took a loan out or you didn't, you're still suffering, you're still a victim of that consequence. The reality is that the laws are there. And I'll put it in a much easier context because, again, I always find analogies are probably the easiest way to explain something rather than being legalistic.
Yeah.
20 years ago, people walked into hospitals and they got contaminated blood. Pelican House, which was a licensed entity, a regulated entity that was to adhere to laws and legislation, they didn't. Every person who got contaminated blood went in there innocently. They became the haemophiliacs of Ireland. And it has taken almost 2 decades for that to be recognised. And people sympathise with them. They done nothing wrong. Well, the Irish people done nothing wrong. They went into a bank. The bank didn't inform them that they were insolvent, that they were breaking the laws of this country, that they were operating criminally and negligently. And the people placed their trust in them. And I have a very simple solution to this problem, which again was sitting in a courtroom, bored to tears, waiting for my name to be called. And I listened to a plumber. And he bought a house for 300,000. It was currently valued at 128,000. And the bank basically pursued him. They implied, paid by the taxpayers of course, one of the highest paid solicitors firms in Dublin, who always implied the highest paid barristers in Dublin. And it had cost nearly 70,000 euros to get that plumber into court to repossess his home. Now remembering they're going to get a possession order, which they did, they take off his house off him. God only knows the standard of the house is going to be when they basically get it. And all they'll walk out of court is with 50,000 euros, if they're lucky. What does the taxpayers get? Nothing. Because they're going to have to house that plumber.
Yeah.
And they're going to pay over 10 years, 228,000 euros. So, and anybody who wants to challenge those figures, I'll give them my email address. It's tdarcy@concepthomes.ie or tdarcy47@gmail.com. But basically, that's what's happening.
Well, Tom, we've reached that time that we have to sign off, unfortunately, because we ran over 15 minutes. But I'll tell you what we can do, Tom. Next week, if you can, if we can get you on for about 8:30 or so, roughly around the same time, if we can get you on to get an update on how the court case went with you, that'll be fantastic. Now, what we're going to do here from an OYM point of view is we're going to put you send over a couple of requests to people we know in the alternative media who have TV shows and stuff like that. And we're going to see if we can get you some, if not radio airtime, maybe TV time, and to talk about what's going on, because there's obviously some people that we know. But we have to leave it there for the moment, Tom. But if you don't mind coming on next week, that would be fantastic.
Again, I appreciate the opportunity, and any person who wants to speak to me, I'm more than welcome to take their call, email or fax, anything. Snail mail I'd even do. Again, thanks very much for your time and thanks for your listeners for listening.
No problem, Tom. Well, listen, just stay with us there for a minute, Tom, and
Okay.
we'll finish up. We just say a big thank you to Vin for letting us run over on TNS, because we normally finish about 9. Steve?
Yeah, the check's in the post, Vin, and much appreciated. Thanks very much for the extra 15 minutes.
And we just got people on the chat facility, Tom, just saying good luck with the case tomorrow, so that's good news there. But we just round up. Guys, take it easy, stay safe. Tom, stay with us there for a minute. We'll just finish up here. And next week, we'll have Miles Johnson on the show, so that's going to be interesting information as well. So for myself, for Alan James, good night.
Okay, thank you, and a very good evening for me as well. I'm not going to make a big long speech at the end. Just thanks again to Vin and the boys in TNS. We'll do it all again next week from myself, Steve and George. Take care, bye-bye.